Hello! This month is Dysautonomia Awareness Month, and Monday, the 25th of October, I believe was POTS Awareness Day, but don't quote me on that, and I missed it because I was busy at work. So this week's video is going to be about my POTS diagnosis. None of this is really new. Well, some of this is actually new information. I'll get into it, just enjoy my intro music and then I'll explain. There needs to be more awareness of POTS and other dysautonomic conditions, especially in the medical world. No, not now. And the sun is back to ruin my day, again, as happens every time I try and talk about POTS. So it took at least 12 years for me to be diagnosed with POTS, for various reasons. Most of which being oh my god. So yes, it took me 12 years at least to get my diagnosis, just because doctors are ignorant, I guess. I think I have to be mean to get my point across, but every doctor I came across was ignorant, disbelieving, just wanted to get me out of the room, I think. Never wrote anything down. This is a whole nother argument for a whole different day, but I digress. My diagnosis took 12 years solely because of medical ignorance. These past 12 years I have documented kind of the last 2 or 3 of them. I did talk a lot about the final steps, the actual progress of getting a POTS diagnosis I talked about. And this video is just a summary of all that for those who don't have 64 minutes and 19 seconds, because I did the math. If you don't have that kind of time to watch every single bit in detail, this is the video for you. And I can also fill in some of the blanks because that's a blank piece of paper, but there are pages. I got at least some of my medical records, which is also another video for another day. Let's start with previous history of fainting, dizzy spells, standing up and getting a head rush, just general low blood pressure symptoms from when I was about 11, 12-ish, but the fainting symptoms really started when I got my first HPV vaccination, and it was nothing to do with the actual vaccine. It was a vasovagal reaction, which is another dysautonomic condition. Basically, whenever you get like a needle prick or a blood test, it varies from person to person, but for me it seems to be certain needles. Blood test, fine. Vaccination, less fine. Skin prick test, which I'll get onto, not fine. But that vaccination, I fainted, and then I fainted after every other vaccination that I had, and that was kind of me learning what feeling like I'm about to faint felt like, and it just felt kind of like normal to me because I had been experiencing that for a long time, but I had never actually fainted before. And then the vaccinations happened and I fainted, and I was like, oh, well that's what that's like. And fast forward, I'm getting older, I'm fainting a couple of times, I passed out at work once and I ended up going into A&E just because it was closer, back in Cornwall, and they were just like, huh, yeah, that is weird, oh well, and sent me home. I've been to the GP about it, which for my American followers, Lord, there we go, that'll do. For my American followers, that is a primary care physician, primary care doctor, who would blame it on anxiety a lot of the time. It was kind of a split. Some would blame it on anxiety. Some would do a poor man's tilt test, where they sit you down, take your readings, so your pulse rate and your blood pressure, and then they get you to stand up and they take them again and they see if there are any changes in them. I have the record of a few of them, and there are changes that would warrant further investigation. Not necessarily an on-the-spot diagnosis, because that would be silly. It would warrant being like, hey, maybe we should send them for a tilt table test. But they never did. They just sort of said, oh, propranolol, take some more of that. which, if you don't know, if you take too much it will lower your blood pressure and then you will have some problems with fainting. Just FYI. I have many years of that. And then in January of 2020, I will link the video up here as well because it's a very good one, I visited an allergist for my cold urticaria, being allergic to cold. That's a whole different thing, not really related to the POTS. And while I was in that allergist appointment, I was getting an allergy test for dust, and I had a skin prick test, and my body decided that that was not an okay thing for us to be doing at that moment in time, and made me faint, which was very embarrassing. But it got the allergist to ask, well, I started talking about like, oh, this happens all the time, and then there was further discussion. I was like, yeah, I keep having fainting spells. It's not always because of needles or anything. A lot of people have suggested it might be POTS, and I've had poor man's tilt table tests, and the GP doesn't seem to want to investigate it, or I've not had any further testing. And she, the actual angel, I swear, wrote it down, put it in my notes to query POTS, evaluate POTS. I can't remember the exact wording, it's not in these notes, I have the letter somewhere, not the point. And then that letter got to my GP, and my GP was like, yeah, okay, now that you've written it down, we kind of have to action it. So instead of sending me just for the usual diagnostic test, they just sent me for a cardiac event monitor, or a cardiac memo test. And I'm gonna pause here because I didn't make a specific video about this, but as a part of my EDS investigations in 2019 from the rheumatologist, where I made this video that dismissive doctors are dangerous, are we getting the point here? He wanted to check for, he wanted me to go for an echocardiogram to check out my heart, because with EDS and connective tissue disorders you can have some issues within the heart structures themselves, and he just wanted to evaluate that. So that happened in October-ish of 2019, and I never shared the results with you because I never got them until I requested my medical notes, and they have them in. So I will just read that. So we just have this first one, which is just, I fainted at uni, vasovagal syncope again, and they sent me to urgent care because apparently paperwork. So I went, treatment, self-care, verbal advice, great. With lowish blood pressure, it's not like low, but it was like 90/50, which is not great, could be better. I had my echocardiogram, all of my heart structures are pretty much normal. There are some small amounts of regurgitation in all of my valves, but nothing that they were too concerned about. Just looks like a decently normal functioning heart, I guess. So then we go back forward in time to my cardiac memo test, which I'll put a video up here because I did document this. I did like a whole vlog about it. Everything you can expect is in there. I'm not going to talk about it again. I will talk a little bit more about the results though, because the letter that I got and the information that I got is different-ish. They didn't put as much detail in the letter to me as they did in the notes. So indication, palpitations, mentions nothing about fainting and blood pressure stuff and orthostatic intolerances and whatever. Test performed, cardiac event monitor. ECG, sinus bradycardia at 57 beats per minute. Everything on the trace looking normal. Overall comments, predominantly sinus arrhythmia, 50 to 91 beats per minute. A short run of sinus tachycardia, 122 beats per minute, seen in recording 4. Diary sheet shows patient experienced palpitations, fluttering during run of sinus tachycardia. See additional patient comments attached to report. If you watched that video, I said I wrote a letter about how everything affects me. I have the letter, so I'll read that to you now of what I wrote. It is a bit cringe, but like I was at a point where I was just like, just listen to me. I want it in writing, listen to it. The heart palpitations can be ignored most of the time, but sometimes they can be so aggressive that my whole body lurches forwards, which I obviously didn't manage to catch on the monitor because that would be too easy. I consider myself to be quite a fit and active person. This was back when I was cycling more and leaving the house, kind of pre-pandemic, mid-pandemic-ish. less so now. In uni, when my chronic pain was at its highest, I became a wheelchair basketball coach and my team placed 6th in the national championships. We did. I was on and off the court all day for 3 days. This time last year I was doing 13-mile bike rides every other day. Now I can't walk 250 metres up the road without feeling exhausted, like my lungs are breathing fire, but the air isn't going anywhere. Fainting just isn't cute, it can happen anywhere and I'm quite self-conscious about it. I have 2 pharmacology degrees and I'm looking for work. Fainting in a lab has cost me a job. In 2015 I passed out at work with chest pains, palpitations and exhaustion feelings. This was brushed off as anxiety, but I promise as an ice cream seller I was not anxious. I was on a calm beach overlooking Nuki Harbour. I'm concerned, but not really what I'd call anxious. I don't actually get my symptoms when I'm anxious. I know how my anxiety presents itself. Heart palpitations, fast heart rate and fainting and dizziness, isn't it? Thanks for listening and sorry for the essay. And I'm not going to show you all of the tracings because some of them are really dull, but if you want to see my tachycardia, just because I can, it's that one there, I believe. There you go, that's fun. Finally, we get to the tilt table test in which my heart rate doubled. I did talk about it more in the POTS results. My blood pressure did some weird things, but not like lots and lots. I didn't faint, but I felt horrendous. And then he wrote, yeah, you fit the diagnostic criteria, but I don't think you have POTS, but it also could be POTS. And then I had to ring up my doctor and be like, so do I or do I not have POTS? And she was just like, yes, you have POTS, that's pretty clear to me. And then wrote it in my medical notes. It's always the women doctors that are the heroes of the story, and just the fact that what they tell me in person they then write in my notes, which you would think is just normal, but as a chronically ill person I can promise you that it's not normal for GPs to actually say the thing and then write the thing down. What they do is they say thing A and then write thing B, which doesn't always make sense, or sometimes they say thing A, cricket chirp. So well done if you stuck with that this far. So to sum up, how did I get diagnosed with POTS? I suffered for many years with it, then went to a completely unrelated doctor who was like, I can get this sorted out for you. And then she did. Then I went for most of the heart tests you can think of, and then they kind of said, you fit the criteria, but you're just not the type. And then my final doctor, my GP, who I am not letting go, if she leaves I'm moving with her, saved the day and wrote it the fuck down. Could this have been saved by any doctor who gave me a poor man's tilt table test being like, how about we give you a proper one? Or being screened for any of the other POTS symptoms that isn't fainting? Because there are many. I'm going to make a follow-up video, and I know I say that a lot and then it comes like a year later, but I'm going to. It's one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, how did you get POTS finally diagnosed? Because I am struggling. I struggle too. So this is how, and this is what you should prepare yourself for. And perhaps this is what you should suggest to your doctors. So happy Dysautonomia Awareness Month. Happy POTS Awareness Day for right at the beginning of the week. Look after yourselves, and don't forget to like this video. Drop a comment down below if you have a POTS diagnosis and whether you went through any of this, or if you are looking for a POTS diagnosis, or if you have any questions or looking for a POTS assessment, down in the comment section. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you get notified every single time I post a new video. Videos go up every Saturday at 6 PM UK time with at least one bonus video every single month. See ya!